Hey friends, at your local library, a land of adventure awaits. This time, we're looking at a movie which personifies that idea, 1994's The Pagemaster, starring Macaulay Culkin, Christopher Lloyd, and a slew of name-brand actors lending their voices to the picture. Produced in part by Turner Broadcasting's Animation Studio. Anyway, our story goes like this. Macaulay Culkin plays Richard, a timid kid afraid of his own shadow. He's not stupid, exactly. He memorizes accident statistics to avoid doing anything he's afraid of. His dad doesn't know what to do. He's building the kid a tree house that the kid will probably never dare use. He sends the kid to the local hardware store to get some nails, which Richard reluctantly does. On the way, a big storm hits, and he has to take shelter in a library. A library that is, sadly, very empty of people. Thanks, digital age. There, he meets the librarian, who gives him a library card, mistakenly thinking that Richard wants a book, when really, he just wants to use the phone to call his parents. As he wanders about, he slips and conks his head, transporting him into a magical and animated world. He meets the Pagemaster, who informs him that he must go on a journey to find the exit and return home again. Along the way, he meets 3 anthropomorphized books: adventure, fantasy, and horror. Initially, they only help Richard because he has a library card and can check them out of the library, something that they really want, but they say doesn't happen very often. Again, thanks, digital age. Along the way, they become friends and help Richard on his quest, even fighting a fire-breathing dragon. Can Richard find the exit and return to the real world? Will he learn through literature a way to shed his fears and become self-reliant? Now, if you're like me, you probably figured that this came from a pre-existing book or graphic novel, but that's not the case. This is an original story, although some material was published before the movie was finished. In our cast, we have Culkin as the hero. Ed Begley Jr. plays his dad, Mel Harris from Stargate and 30-something plays his mom. Veteran voice artist Frank Welker plays horror. Other voice stalwarts include Dorian Harewood, Jim Cummings, BJ Ward, and Ed Gilbert. Phil Hartman also added his voice to the cast. And there is a Star Trek connection here as well. Christopher Lloyd plays the librarian and voices the Pagemaster. He previously played Kruge in Star Trek III. Here, his makeup is meant to look like Charles Dickens. Leonard Nimoy has a small role as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. An almost unrecognizable Patrick Stewart has a lot of fun voicing Adventure, the pirate book. Whoopi Goldberg, Guinan on Star Trek The Next Generation, plays Fantasy, and Robert Picardo, the EMH from Voyager, plays a pirate. David Kirshner, who worked on An American Tale and Hocus Pocus, among other things, produced, while Joe Johnston directed the live action. Johnston having worked on Temple of Doom, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and The Rocketeer. Pixode Hunt handled the animation portion of the film. He had worked on Snorks and The Black Cauldron, and later Fantasia 2000. With all that talent, what could possibly go wrong? Well, this project was beset with problems, many of them self-inflicted. There were delays, accusations of mismanagement, and legal wrangling when producer David Kirshner demanded full writing credit even though he didn't come up with a story. And poor Macaulay Culkin, he just couldn't catch a break. Other than My Girl and Home Alone, it seemed as if anything else he appeared in was kind of a flop, and make no mistake, The Pagemaster was a flop. In the end, the movie cost $34 million and made back less than half that amount. Critics generally hated it, and Culkin was nominated for a Razzie Award. Director Joe Johnston was so dissatisfied with the end result, even now, to this day, he doesn't list The Pagemaster on his resume. This despite the fact that the live-action segments are very good. In fact, the movie itself is very good. The animation is just gorgeous and imaginative. The music is lovely, scored by James Horner, and unlike most of this kind of fare, the characters don't burst out into song, thankfully. The movie moves along at a brisk pace and never gets too tedious, coming in at around 75 minutes. There were cuts to the final product, unfortunately, including the removal of a segment where Culkin encounters Frankenstein, which sounds kinda cool. I loved how everything in the animated world seems to be made from books, and it's fun to spot the various titles of books on the shelves. Culkin carries the movie, and he's perfectly fine in the live-action parts and when voicing the animated part. The characters are all well realized, the animated character designs are good, and it's all kind of fun. All in all, a good picture. But even so, you can see why this one wasn't a hit. See, this movie is a love letter to libraries and classic literature, and if this had come out in the mid to late 80s, I think it would have done much better. But due to delays, the picture wasn't released until 1994. By that point, it was the dawn of the digital age and the internet. And if kids went to the library at all, they were probably more interested in using the computers there than checking out classics like Treasure Island or Gulliver's Travels. And video games were the hot new thing, with Game Boy and Super Nintendo dominating the markets. Ironically, one of the few items of merchandise for the Pagemaster, aside from books, were video games for various game platforms, gameplay between the handheld and PC versions differing to the point that they were essentially two different games. In the end, the bad showing for the Pagemaster and a couple of other projects helped tank the Turner Corporation's fledgling animation studio. It's all too bad, really. I'm giving the Pagemaster 2 3/4 paws. It's not as bad as you may have heard, but it's not as good as it could have been either. Still, I think this one deserves a watch. It was imaginative, the animation is excellent, and it was a lot of fun. In some ways, the Pagemaster represents a road not taken in American animation. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.